Hi, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. Today, let's figure out how to design something from scratch, just using an idea and a shape. It's not as difficult as you think it is. There is more than one way to do it. People have their own styles, so what I'm telling you is not cast in stone, but I'm going to tell you the way I would approach a challenge that was put to me recently. A lot of times we see cute patterns that we would like to make in our own medium, but they are not written in our medium. Here is something that somebody sent me, a cute little cowboy hat and a matching boot, but it's a crochet pattern, and I sketched it because it's a copyrighted photo that I don't have the right to reproduce. However, you can't own the shape of a cowboy hat, so sketching it is totally legit. Now, if my friend wanted to make it on this loom, which has 41 pegs, here is how I would approach it if I were designing such a thing. First of all, I did not manage to sketch it, but this edge ripples a little bit. So we know it's quite a lot larger than the center portion of the hat, the crown portion of the hat. Also, the edge needs to be stiff enough to stay up and look cowboy hattish, not floppy. When I want that to happen on a loom knitted project, I've had good success casting on with doubled yarn, possibly knitting the first couple rows in doubled yarn. So there's problem number one solved, a stiffer edge made by doubling yarn. Problem number two, this is big, this is little. How are we going to get them together? Well, you're going to choose the loom that makes the correct crown size, first of all. So the problem is getting a brim that's big enough around to look like a cowboy hat. I've made little dotted lines on my sketch to indicate that I would cast on all my needles, well, pegs on a loom, of course. I say needles because I knit on many things. Starting from here, going all the way around to here, but then I'd go back. Now I'm casting on with my doubled yarn, maybe knitting the first couple rows with doubled yarn, and going back and forth so that there's an opening right here. And I'm going to knit two of those. Each one I will remove. Probably I would use a circular needle, a hand knitting needle. If you did not have that, I'd take it off on a yarn needle and a piece of waste yarn. So that then you're going to have some things a couple inches long probably, and this is an area that you need to experiment and decide how wide does the brim look right in proportion to the hat. It's going to partly depend on the size of the hat too. So there is always some experimentation involved. You are not going to get by without swatching and starting and stopping, but that's what the design process is all about. And the more you do it, the fewer tries it will take. So I'm going to put a dotted line here. What I'm really going to begin with is two pieces like this, only they'll be straight right now. They won't have a curve in here. The curve will be achieved because I will hang all the pieces back on the loom, but 2 stitches at a time. 2 stitches on this peg, 2 on this, and then I'll be around to the other side and have to double them up all the way around, and that is going to make a brim that will stick out from the hat like this one does. My experience tells me that double the number of pegs is what I would do first. It may not be in every case, but that would be my first guess here. Okay, this section from here to here is easy because it's just normally knitting in the round and round, the way you're accustomed to doing on a hat loom. That first row is going to be stiff, as these were stiff, because you've got 2 stitches on every peg in this case, and because we had doubled yarns in this case. So this will be a difficult row, but it will also give shape to the hat. These will be easy rows. Now here's what I think I would do here to create the cowboy hat bumps. I would short row and short row. And for what that means for the loom is I'd start knitting on this first half of the pegs, and then I would knit, let's see, it's 41 pegs around, so we're going to have to fudge. One side would be 20 and one would be 21. Let's talk about the 20 side. First we'd knit pegs 1 to 20, then we'd go back 20 to 2, and then 2 to 19, getting smaller. It's going to take some experimentation to decide how small to go. I think for this shape I would only reduce the number of pegs being knitted by 4 to 6. That's just a guess on my part. And then I'd start short rowing out again, including the next peg every time. If you don't know about short rowing, that's really another tutorial. It requires wrapping the peg next to the one being knitted to avoid making a hole, but we'll work on that later. I would make this bump by short rowing. Then I would go to the other half of the loom, do the same thing in reverse, and make that bump. Now these areas will have extra knitting and they should pop up, and I'm thinking that I would seam the top of the crown, which would form the dip between these two bumps. So what we're doing every time I try to take an idea that I've seen in one medium and turn it into another one is not look at the stitches, but look at the shape and say, how would I get that shape with what I have to work with? If I only had a flat loom, we could knit this in flat and seam it somewhere like that. That's what you're doing, and you're also including what you know to be your gauge. If you're trying to size something carefully, you'll need to make a gauge swatch, and if you have 3 stitches per inch and you need a hat no one needs a hat 60 inches around, let's call it 20 inches around, you would need 60 stitches. This has a larger gauge than that. It's probably closer to 2 stitches per inch, so this would fit an adult. In any case, what I'm getting at is look at the shape, look at the various characteristics, such as the fact that the edge has its own stiffness and stands out rather than drooping. If this was floppy, it would look like a lady's beach hat, even though the brim was the same shape and size otherwise. That's not what we're after. So look at every feature, both shape and other characteristics, and figure out how you would get it on your loom. I love the design challenges, but in general, you can make most things in most media if you open your mind. Now this cowboy hat comes with a little boot. That's going to be a separate thought process. I'll mull it over and perhaps we'll do another video.